In this week's parsha, Miketz, we learn the Sikha Miketz Beis. In Rabbi, we read about how the 7 years of plenty finished and the 7 years of hunger began. And there was a hunger in all the land, and in Egypt there was bread, thanks to Yosef's storage program. Vatirav kol eretz Mitzrayim, and the whole land of Mitzrayim went hungry, from everybody having bread to everyone going hungry. Vayitzak la'am al Paroi l'lachem, they all scream out to Paroi for bread. Vayomer Paroi l'chol Mitzrayim, and Paroi tells the whole Mitzrayim, l'chu al Yosef, go to Yosef, asher yomel lechem tasu, whatever he tells you to do, do. Says Rashi in the first Rashi, what happened that suddenly everybody's going hungry if there was bread till now? Shir kiva tvuasam she'atzru. Their tvua, their grain, rotted. Chutz mishal Yosef, besides what Yosef had stored. Asher yomel lechem tasu, that which he tells him to do, do. What's the question? We don't know. Yosef was telling them to circumcise himself. When they came to Paroi and they said, this is what Yosef is telling us to do. He tells them, why didn't you pack grain? He told you that the hunger years are coming. They told him, we did collect for Akiva and it rotted. He says, oh, in Cain, if that's the case. Whatever he tells them to do, you do. Look, he made a decree regarding the grain that was in your possession and it all rotted. What if he decrees another decree? And some are going to die. Comes the Rabbi and says, what was like? The first Rashi makes sense. You have to understand what happened that suddenly everybody's going hungry if there was bread. But how do you know that was about circumcision? How do you know it's about anything? Like, how did Bris Milah come into this whole episode? Rashi doesn't just come and say things unless they're pshuti shal mikra. Now also it says, whatever he will tell you. And based on Rashi, it's something you already told him in the past. So some Mefarshim, like the Maskil David, they say that the fact that Paroi is so lengthy, he says, L'chu al Yosef asher yomer lochem tasu, means that there was something else that was going on, and therefore he had to add. But again, yomer is future. Now, Paroi already appointed Yosef as the ruler in the previous aliyah. So what's the big insight? Yomer lochem tasu. And how do we know that he was the circumcision? Because Rashi's coming and implying that the circumcision is something that happened previously. Where in the previous psukim did we see anything about circumcision? More questions. How does he know that there was a whole conversation between Paroi and the Mitzrayim going back and forth? Why at the end of the Rashi does he say that he might decree on us and kill us? Why is it not enough to say that he decreed on the grain and therefore we have no choice? Why call Asher Yomar? Whatever he says, that's not what the pasuk says. Just says Asher Yomar. Why Aleinu, on us, including himself in it? Whoever spoke about death, etc. Also, why Taka did Yosef want everybody to have a bris? What's up? We actually explained in the previous sikha that the reason why Avram Avinu didn't have a bris till now is because one of the Sheva Mitzvah Noach is you cannot self-mutilate. Achas Dimchem, it's in the category of murder. And that includes taking out Bris Milah. So why, if Avram Avinu doesn't want to self-mutilate until Hashem tells him you're supposed to, because he has a chiyuv as a ben Noach not to hurt himself, so why is Yosef imposing this on all the people? Comes to that and says in the Ois Hey, here's the explanation. Beautiful, beautiful insight. When Paroi appointed Yosef as a Mishnah Melech, he says, Atati al Beisi, you'll be the ruler of the house. Val Picha, and through your mouth, Yishak Kalami, everybody's going to follow. Says Rashi, what does Yishak mean? Yitzan, they'll be supported. Whatever my nation needs will be done through you. In other words, Yosef is now the economy director, but even more than that, he literally is the supplier of everybody. So everybody is his possession. So there comes the question, why are they coming to Pari to complain? They should go to Yosef. They knew that Yosef is in charge. So you must say that they did go to Yosef first. And something went off. Now, you can't say that Yosef just asked him for money because he's entitled to ask him for money. So it has to be that there was something they didn't agree to. What possibly couldn't they agree to? Bris. Why? When Hashem commanded Avram Avinu to make a bris, he says, "Himol yimol yelid beischa umiknas kaspecha," whatever all your possessions. In other words, whatever is in your rishus, Avram Avinu, they have a chiyuv to have a bris. So now that Yosef is shalit al kol haaretz, and he's appointed on everybody, without his permission, no one's even allowed to pick up their hand and foot. In other words, everybody's under his control, dominion. Svara says that they need to have a bris. Now, interesting, the Rabbi says in Orah 24, that's why Shechem were never suspected when Bnei Yaakov said they have to circumcise themselves, because you have to become part of their nation. In order to become part of the nation, whoever wants to become part of the family has to do that. In other words, it was a standard. So that makes sweeter the Lashon Rashi, Yosef Omer Lehem, not Omar Lehem, Omer in the constant. He was constantly telling them. It was something that he was passionate about, because now that you're my own, you're my possession, you have a chiyuv to have a bris. And Yosef felt obligated to do it. And therefore, the moment Yosef had serious leverage, he uses the opportunity. It's no longer like, a request, it's a condition. So they come screaming to Pari, who's the king. Yosef's the Mishnah Melech. And Pari says, go to Yosef on whatever he tells you to do. In other words, Pari doesn't want to mix in. Why? Why doesn't he want to mix in? Comes Rashi and it says, it has to be something supernatural happen. Otherwise, Pari feels very entitled to tell Yosef what to do. He's his boss. So it must be Hirkiva and an eifin of not nature. It rotted supernaturally. Xeris Yosef. So therefore, there's no point if Pari tells Yosef what to do, because Yosef can make a Xer. You'll sit there saying, but even if Yosef makes a Xer for a little while, it would stay fresh. So therefore, at least get food for the temporary. So therefore, it must be that Yosef has even more leverage. And not only is he going to cause them to die slowly by making the food rot, and eventually they'll die, but he has the opportunity to kill them immediately. He has the possibility of Gzera. Now, why would Yosef make them die? Chances are you'll make Pari die, who's enforcing him. That's why Pari says, Allah, I know, it's my problem. You're going to cause me to die. So whatever he tells you, whatever he tells you, because we're now dealing with a real risk that he's going to kill me, whatever he tells you, you're going to do. No matter what, because he has so much leverage on us. In Taka, they all had a Bris Milah, which is one of the more unknown episodes that happens during Yosef's rulership. Comes to Rashi, the Sichen says that there's something to learn in Chassidus. We know, Chassidus explains, etc., that the difference between Yosef and the Shvatim is Yosef was a Merkava d'Atzilus. In other words, he was in the level of Atzilus, and therefore Elam Haza had no space with him. So therefore he could be Melech Mitzrayim, the ultimate low of the low, and still be absolutely with Dveikus with Hashem. The Shvatim were Merkava d'Bria, one level lower, and therefore they had to separate from the world. They were not able to work with the world and not be affected by it. From this Rashi, we learn more than that. Not only did Elam Haza not bother him from his Dveikus, but on the contrary, he impacted it. He caused them to have a bris, and we know that a bris takes away a bit of the taiva, and we know that Mitzrayim, Shtufei Zima, they were the absolute immorality when it came to sexuality. So therefore, he forces them to downgrade their taiva, to soften it. And this is a lesson from that. So, and even Pari has to agree with it. That Yisrael, Yidden are called, Miketz and Yosef were like the sheep of Yosef, were the children of Yosef. And therefore, each and every one of us has the opportunity to impact wherever we are, even when people are the absolute low. We have an opportunity to impact. And therefore, we should never be in the spot. We should never be worried or overwhelmed by the challenges and the lowlessness of the place. We should be strong. And we have the opportunity to affect the world. on all the Yidden, and even be an Ur Lagoyim, that the Bnei Noach should keep their 7 mitzvahs, that we refine the whole world and we come to Mashiach Tzidkenu, and we come to the level of Kiaz Eprech Alam Sakabur, all the nations will transform, Likrei Kula Mashem Hashem, to all serve Hashem in the right way, just like Yosef accomplished in his time.